Hello, DCU fans! Today's going to be my breakdown and review of the brand new Supergirl teaser trailer, including an initial timeline placement for the movie. So, lots to discuss. Let's dive right in and see what we can find out. Don't forget, we have a December contest running all month long. Be a subscriber, leave a comment. You could win a book or a steelbook. Best of luck. We also have a membership option with lots of cool perks, so you might check it out. Plus, hang around to the end of the video, and I'll talk about our Doomsday Countdown rewatch on the Discord. So, some of the initial promos for the movie show off Supergirl's new look. Love the new outfit. And I say her new look because notice how she's changed her outfit from what we saw in the Superman movie. It's also interesting to note that she's definitely channeling Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy, and I got no issue with that. Those were some terrific James Gunn movies, so it makes sense their influence would be felt in Supergirl. And then it's also worth noting at the end of the teaser trailer, they mentioned checking out Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the original comic book that the movie was inspired from. And in fact, I'll be mentioning some things about the comic during this breakdown. All right, so we start with Blondie's Call Me being the trailer's literal needle drop because Krypto comes in, licks an open bottle of alcohol, oh my word, and that causes the needle to physically drop. Which, by the way, is not good on a record player, so you're going to be in trouble, buddy. But anyway, he then proceeds to pee on this newspaper, but before he pees on it, let's talk about some Easter eggs. So we start off with a headline saying that Superman saves a town from a nuclear reactor explosion, but then also on the front page is Supergirl rescuing cats, which I do notice that Krypto made sure to pee on that portion of the newspaper as well as on Superman. But surely this is also an Easter egg for when Superman saved a cat in the very first Superman movie and gave it to the sweet little girl. And then it's also worth noting this means Supergirl is well known enough that she makes the front page, and that of course fits in with the fact that we saw her showing up at the end of Peacemaker Season 1 with the rest of the Justice League. So yeah, definitely the world knows who she is, and she's at least semi-famous. I mean, she made the front page. And speaking of the front page of the paper, notice we do get a date. And if we zoom in on it, it's Thursday, October something, either the 1st or the 4th. Honestly, looks a bit more like a 4, but then again, Krypto's been peeing on the paper, so who knows? The reason I like the 1st better is that perfectly aligns with October 1st of 2026, which would place this movie in 2026, therefore. And remember, in the Superman movie, we had multiple newspaper dates that perfectly align to 2025. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. It probably really is a 4, but I'm still going to go with October 1st of 2026. So if that's the case, then if we look at our DCU timeline and we know that Superman happened in May of 2025, then the movie would be happening about a year and a half after the Superman movie. All right, so then we see that Kara's spaceship is a total disaster. And the reason I'm saying it's a spaceship is she's saying you managed to get most of it on the paper this time. Good job, buddy. So obviously she can't take him out for a walk if she's flying through space. But that also means she's letting the dog pee on the ground in her spaceship. Oh my word, that is so nasty. So remember, we first met Krypto in the Superman movie when we learned that he's actually Kara's dog, and in fact, we've seen Krypto in some shorts. Now that raised the question of, are these canon? I mean, they're kind of weird because you have Krypto living with Clark in Metropolis and destroying the Daily Planet globe. A little too silly for the DCU in my mind. Well, sure enough, James Gunn comes in and answers the question, are they canon? And he says no. But I love him though. So all right, Krypto shorts are out, but certainly we saw Krypto in the first Superman movie. So then we learn that the DCU does indeed have interstellar public transit. In fact, looks very similar to something that we saw in the comics. Love that. So here it is, landing in front of what seems to be an interstellar bus stop, which I'm really proud of Kara because she knew that she's going to go drinking, and you shouldn't go drinking and driving your spaceship. So maybe she's left it at home, or at least in the comic version of Woman of Tomorrow, it got stolen. We'll see what direction they go. But anyway, the thing lands, they open the door, and sure enough, she's going in for her ride. Now, at some point, we will see her meeting up with Ruthie on the spaceship. This might be after they've already met and they're traveling around the galaxy together, or maybe she first meets her here. But this is a good time to talk about Ruthie. Notice her sword. That's directly out of the comics. Now, her look is very different. Obviously, that's very different than what we saw in the trailer. But notice, though, she does indeed have her famous sword. And in fact, that sword was used to kill her father in the comics, and now she's wanting to get revenge on the person that killed him, which is Krem of the Yellow Hill. So that means it's a perfect time to talk about Krem. Notice he's a red-headed pirate in the comics. He uses the sword, but also bows and arrows. And there's been a lot of speculation that this dude here is the movie adaptation of Krem. Now, people are theorizing that because it's been announced that this actor is playing Krem, and they sure do look similar, right? But what doesn't look similar is the Krem from the comics. So, yeah, a lot of people are wondering, why did they change the design, or is this indeed really Krem? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but my bet is that's Krem. So, all right, he's going to be the main villain, the one that both Ruthie and Kara are chasing throughout the movie. All right, so now we see that Kara is celebrating her birthday by getting stupid drunk. In fact, she even steals this dude's drink, and I'm assuming she downs it. Yuck. But then she also has some of her own, this flaming drink. She says 23 will be the best year yet, as she looks down at Krypto and says, hey, let's be honest, babe, it's not a very high bar to clear. And then we see her proceed to blow out her flaming drink like it's a candle on a cake. All right, so if she's celebrating her birthday, keep in mind that in the comics, her birthday is traditionally considered to be September 22nd, because that's when she was first introduced in the DC universe. So if this movie is happening on October 1st or 4th, that's not long after September 22nd, so she's finally out celebrating her birthday. Or they've moved her birthday into October. I guess let me know your thoughts on that as well. It's kind of interesting. Also, let's talk about the fact that she's 23. Because remember, in the Superman movie, we learned that 3 decades ago, Superman as a baby was brought to Earth. So that would seem to mean he's 30 years old and she's 23, therefore younger. Now, it is worth noting, and thank you to Taff on the Discord for pointing out that James Gunn has said that Superman's birthday is actually February 29th. And the only 2 leap years that would work around the 3 decades ago are 1992 and 1996. So since the movie's happening in 2025, that would mean he's either 33 or 29, not 30, but anyway, you get the idea. He's basically 30 and she's 23. We'll talk more about the age difference in a minute. All right, so now let the dance party begin. She picks her favorite song, down comes the disco ball, and she dances the night away. Now, this is kind of interesting. As the camera pans over, we see all of these skulls on the wall. So wherever she's at, it gives new meaning to the term dive bar, right? This is not a reputable place. And we learn from the Superman movie that she does indeed like to go out and party on other planets, in particular planets with red suns. And that's because with their metabolism, they can't get drunk on a planet with a yellow sun. But that would also mean if she's on a planet with a red sun, she doesn't have her powers. So I'm kind of thinking this is a scene later in the movie when she goes under a yellow sun. Because notice, when all these guns are pointed at her and at Ruthie, because that's Ruthie there with her, she says, okay, this does not look like it's going to end well. And they're thinking, yeah, it's not going to end well for you. But she's like, no. It's not going to end well for you guys. So it doesn't feel like she would make a boast like that with all those laser pointers all over her there, unless she does have her powers. So let me know your thoughts, but I'm betting that this is a second bar that she's gone to, or at least a second location, a second planet, etc. Because when this fight starts to ensue, and my word, they get out the mace ball, they get out this giant axe, that is nasty. Well, notice she's been in quite a fight. I mean, look at all that dirt on her face, and that snarl on her face is awesome too. What a shot, right? But she holds back the mace ball. I don't think she could do that if she didn't have her powers. And then notice she grabs the axe and just flings it at this dude. And then they start to book down the hallway. And this is really important. She takes flight, right? She flies out the window and up and over all these dudes that are trying to shoot at her with crossbows. So she obviously has her powers at this point, right? Plus, notice that she does a really noble thing here and takes the brunt of the landing, because when she's flying with Ruthie, she flips in midair so that she lands on the ground, protecting Ruthie from the harm of, landing so hard. So yeah, she's got to have her powers, right? And then if there's any doubt, she gets up and just blasts somebody or something as she uses her heat vision there. So obviously this can't be a planet with a red sun, or she couldn't have done that. And we know that Ruthie and she are traveling together on the public transit, so yeah, this makes sense. Different planet, right? Then here we see her walking alone through the mist, but she's definitely worried about something because she's looking left and looking right. Maybe she's being pursued. So probably those pirates are chasing after her and Ruthie for quite some time. And then here we see her and Ruthie walking and talking together. So this dialogue is really interesting. So Ruthie says, do others on your planet have powers like you? And she says, no, it's a pretty small group of 2, referring to herself and Superman. So in her mind, at least, they're the only 2 left from Krypton. We may find out there's more still alive in future DCU entries, but for now, she believes they're the only 2. But then Ruthie says, I didn't know any of you were alive. What was it like to lose everything in a day? So she's referring to Krypton being destroyed in a day. Well, Kara's response is, Krypton didn't die in a day, the gods are not that kind. So what she's referring to here is, yes, Krypton was destroyed in a day, but not everyone perished in that destruction. So in particular, we see some flashbacks, and this is definitely her parents. That's her mother there with the red hair, and her father is on the other side of her. We know that because the actor and actress that are playing her parents, you can tell that's the mother there, and the dad, at least from behind, looks like the actor playing him. Now, what I want to point out is we don't see Kara in this scene. Now, maybe she's a baby and they're carrying her, or maybe she's not born yet. That's my theory. But hold on to that thought for a second, because first we're going to see that Argo City is saved because her parents are fleeing to the city, right? And you can see the protective shield going around it. In fact, here's a wide shot of the shield going around the entire city as it is lifted off of planet Krypton while it gets destroyed. So that's why Kara was saying not everyone died in a day. And we do see that this is very similar to the story of Argo City that's been portrayed in the comics multiple times over. And I think this scene here is Kara actually as a teenager on Argo City, and in fact, this is a funeral procession for maybe one of her parents, but definitely someone important to her who dies, and in fact, in the comics, or at least one version of the comics, everyone on Argo City dies from radiation poisoning slowly. So I think that's what has made her so bitter. Well, eventually, obviously, she leaves Argo City and comes to Earth, but this may explain why she was unaware, at least I'm betting she's unaware, of Jor-El's awful message of, rule without mercy, get a harem, take over the planet, all the things he wanted Clark to do on Earth. She probably doesn't even know about this, but she is living with the pain of everyone dying around her. So the question is then, when did she come to Earth? I mean, we know she was at the end of Peacemaker Season 1, right, where she had that little cameo, and I think that's January of 2023. So there's about an 8-month window of time when she could have shown up, because obviously I think she showed up after Superman arrived. So let me know your thoughts about this timeline, but also let me know your thoughts about whether she was actually born on Argo City and not on Krypton. That's what I'm thinking. She was born on Argo City. All right, so then I love this. Kara drops a truth bomb about Clark because when Ruthie says, what's Superman like? She very bluntly says, he sees the good in everyone and I see the truth. Wow, that's awesome. I love that. Love that quote. All right, so then it looks like Krypto is badly injured at some point because we see her crying and looking over him as he's either healing or maybe even dead. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on whether he dies in this movie. That would be terrible, right? But in the comics, remember, we saw that Krem used a bow and arrow as well as a sword. So notice here he shot Supergirl, but also in the comics, he's the one that shoots Krypto. So we'll see if they go down that same line or not. And again, whether Krypto lives or dies. So that's going to be interesting. But the bottom line is we definitely see Kara is very distraught over something, right? Because we see her flying up into the sky and out of the atmosphere, and she gets up into outer space and just screams, absolutely screams. So is that because Krypto died? Is it because Ruthie died or something else? We'll have to wait and find out. But here again, we see her back down on the planet's surface, and she's very, very distraught. All right, so we do see Lobo make a quick appearance in the trailer, and he looks awesome. We've all been waiting forever for him to show up in live action, and Jason Momoa, former Aquaman, right? He's going to be awesome as Lobo. All right, so then we also see that Supergirl finally takes down the ship of pirates, because I'm sure this crash was caused by her, and now we see her donning her full Supergirl outfit. She looks great, and then she's swinging something around here. I don't know what this is, but as she whips it around, it just wipes everything out on this pirate ship, right? I mean, causing explosions, and boy, does she look ticked off. So let me know your thoughts on what this device is, if it's something from the comics, but whatever it is, she is massively destroying their ship. So there we go. That is my breakdown of the teaser trailer, movie coming out in June of 2026. And I love this message on the poster: truth, justice, whatever. It looks like it's going to be awesome. So let me know your thoughts on the trailer. Are you excited for the movie? Did I miss any Easter eggs in my breakdown? Leave your thoughts. You know I love to read and respond to all of them. And don't forget, December contest, be a subscriber, leave a comment, win a book or a steelbook, and there's the membership option in case you're interested in that. And I mentioned the Doomsday Countdown Watch on the Discord, every day listed here at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern. We watch a different movie or show as we head towards the December 18, 2026 release of Doomsday. So we have 2,500 members across the globe, conversations 24/7, and I'll leave a pinned comment so you can join. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all eagerly await the release of Supergirl.